We've all heard that phrase, right? Kids will be kids. It's this go-to line we use to kind of brush off teasing or kids being left out, as if it's just a normal part of growing up. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if what we're really dismissing is a genuinely traumatic event? Let's dig into what the science is actually telling us.
And this quote from Dr. John Cooley really hits the nail on the head. The latest research is showing that for a whole lot of kids, these aren't just character-building moments. They are truly, genuinely damaging.
So how damaging are we talking about? Well, this number is just staggering. A major study found that over 40% of kids who are bullied go on to develop trauma symptoms that are clinically significant. Now, to put that into perspective, their psychological reactions are on par with what we see in people who've survived what we traditionally consider major, capital T traumas.
Okay, so to really understand that kind of impact, we first have to get on the same page about what bullying actually is and what it isn't. From a research standpoint, it's a lot more specific than just someone being mean.
You see, researchers have a really specific definition for it, and it basically boils down to three key ingredients. The actions have to be deliberate, they have to happen again and again over time, and this is the big one. There has to be a power imbalance. The victim can't easily defend themselves. That's the real difference between bullying and just a regular old conflict between equals.
And bullying, well, it can look like a lot of different things. We're all familiar with the physical stuff, right? Hitting, pushing, and the verbal attacks. But what researchers are really stressing now is that this invisible aggression is just as serious. We're talking about relational bullying, purposely leaving someone out, spreading rumors, and of course, cyberbullying, which can follow you right into your home and make it feel like there's literally no escape.
And all of these forms of bullying, they can lead to what we talked about just a second ago, clinically significant trauma. This is where we start to see the hidden scars, the internal damage these experiences can cause.
This is where it all connects. You can draw a straight line from the outward action to the internal trauma. Being excluded isn't just a social slight. It can trigger classic trauma symptoms, like having intrusive thoughts you can't get rid of, or avoiding certain places or people. Victims often feel like they're constantly on alert, a state we call hypervigilance, which is a total hallmark of PTSD.
And we're not talking about a short-term thing here. The research shows these trauma symptoms can stick around for more than 6 months after the bullying ends. So this isn't just a bad mood that goes away after a weekend. It points to a lasting, fundamental shift in a young person's mental health. So yeah, the evidence is pretty clear that this is a serious problem. But here's the good news. That same science is also pointing us towards solutions that can make a real, measurable difference. So what actually works? What can we do to fight back against bullying and its effects?
Well, a massive review of all the research out there has basically identified 3 main pillars for effective intervention. First up is social support, using peer groups to build a better environment. Second is building up social skills, which is all about making individuals more resilient. And third, you have these big school-based programs that try to change the entire school culture.
And you can see the real-world impact of these programs right here. I mean, look at this. This chart comes from a study in Jordan, and it shows this huge jump in student self-esteem after a school-based program was put in place. And that kind of improvement is absolutely crucial because self-esteem is one of the key things that protects us from the mental health impacts of bullying.
Because at the end of the day, the best interventions aren't just about punishing bad behavior. They're proactive. They actually work to build a whole new culture from the ground up, a culture of support and empathy, where students have the tools they need to help each other out.
So after looking at the problem and the solutions, what's the big takeaway here? It really all comes down to a fundamental shift in how we think about this entire issue.
The science is telling us loud and clear. We have to ditch this outdated idea of bullying as some kind of rite of passage. We need to start seeing it for exactly what it is, a preventable experience that can cause real, lasting trauma. And that simple shift in understanding, that's the very first step toward both preventing it and helping people heal.
And that leaves us with one last really important question. Once we accept this, that bullying isn't just kids being kids, but a potentially traumatic event, how does that change the way we should respond? As students, as friends, as future parents or teachers, it changes everything.